Trump has only been in office 4 to 5 months, and he's already sidelining his head of DNI and the Secretary of Defense, sidelining them. And this just shows you that this is a man that doesn't have strategy, that acts on complete, total, and utter impulse. Seth, play this clip.
What intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
Okay, this is staggering. And I think it's really important that we all realize that during the Iraq War, we were the propagandists. The United States of America produced propaganda and lies and took it to the global stage to go start a war in Iraq because Dick Cheney had a bee in his bonnet over the war with with George W. Bush's dad, and Dick Cheney was in his administration. And so they created this complete lie and propagandized everybody in the world. And George W. Bush took the country to war and then raised taxes at the same time. And it is one of the biggest contributing factors to our national deficit that the Republican Party, when they campaign, says they care about. When Donald Trump campaigns, he says he cares about peace. But when he gets in office, he doesn't give a shit about any of that.
What's interesting to me about Trump is he puts people in places and then he doesn't listen to them. In this case, Tulsi Gabbard, we have long said, I think Hillary Clinton may have said that Tulsi Gabbard was compromised by Russia. And then you look at Donald Trump's actions and you think he's compromised by Russia. So earlier in the week when this all started, Trump's running around having all his acolytes say, well, Iran's trying to kill me. They have nuclear weapons. Then Russia pipes in and says, don't do it. And now he's just Mr. Waffle. Here's the thing. Trump appoints people that are loyal to him, full stop. He doesn't give a shit about what's going on anywhere unless it benefits him. So this does not surprise me at all.
And now Tulsi takes to Twitter to try to save her job. Seth popped this up. The dishonest media is intentionally taking my testimony out of context and spreading fake news as a way to manufacture division. America has intelligence that Iran is at the point that it can produce a nuclear weapon within weeks to months if they decide to finalize the assembly. President Trump has been clear that can't happen, and I agree. So this is a classic Republican play where they blame the media. When there is video evidence of her saying exactly what that reporter asked Trump about. And this is what they do. This is a political party that lies to their base all of the time. And the base doesn't give a shit about the lies because they don't care about the truth. And that is the cancer that will remain. You have people that would rather sit and see the libs get owned on Twitter than the country advance. You have millions of Americans sitting in their houses right now with Fox News blaring that don't give a shit that Trump could add more to the deficit as long as he sends out mean tweets about the libs and is mean to immigrants. There is a brokenness and a cancer in this country that will outlive Trumpism, and it is the problem. And there's a problem with the corporate media. The fact that they show up to the news every night and act like that this is a normal president making normal decisions, that isn't compromised, that isn't a felon, that isn't disoriented, that isn't showing signs of dementia, that didn't try to give a microphone a blowjob, that doesn't understand the difference between an insane asylum and those seeking asylum. And so this just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And on the receiving end of this could be American troops, American taxpayer dollars, and more bullshit. And I just feel, you guys, I have this terrible feeling with all of the ICE in the streets, which MAGA supporters love that shit. They love it. And then if there's going to be some false flag attack on the United States that's going to lure us into this war, and they will shut down any chance of having midterm elections. That Russell Vought, who is really spearheading a lot of this Project 2025 policy work behind the scenes, they know they cannot get to the midterms, and they will do everything in their power, as we know, based on what we saw with our own eyes on January 6th. They will do everything in their power, because if they get to an election, it will be a blue wave, I think, of epic proportions, if we get there.
If we get there. But, that is one of the reasons Stephen Miller is sending people into businesses like Home Depot, 7-Eleven. He wants a fight because they want to declare martial law. And if they can declare martial law, they cannot have elections. Because let's face it, these people are corrupt and violating the law at a presidency that we have never seen before. I mean, what they're doing makes Trump 1.0 look like child's play. And at the end of the day, every policy they're making acts like they will never leave office. So it worries me.
It is very alarming. And here we have Laura Loomer. She's jumping on the train to rail against Tulsi.
He's talking about Iran and Israel and President Trump. And you probably have noticed that there's this big push. It's been going on for about 2 weeks now, where you have these so-called right-wing MAGA influencers, people who pretend that they've been with President Trump since the beginning, people who jumped on the bandwagon. A lot of these people are Kennedy's carnival barkers, who, supported Kennedy's campaign for president, in which he was intentionally and deliberately trying to undermine the will of 400 million Americans, depriving them their right to vote for president by pushing for a contingent election. So, unfortunately, now we're dealing with the consequences of coalition building. We have a lot of people who were unfortunately brought into the MAGA movement because, Kennedy's campaign essentially extorted Donald.
I've heard enough of her. What she's trying to do here is she's trying to say you support the cult leader at all costs. There is no room for not supporting the cult leader. And she's trying to fend off where you have the Tucker Carlsons, Ben Shapiro's, who are starting to slowly call out Trump and this big, ugly bill. And, I saw something in this bill that Trump is pushing forward, because he has so many things going on at one time. Because remember, authoritarians want to make you feel helpless and hopeless. But in this bill, if you make $4 million or more annually, you will pay $400,000 less in taxes. And also in this bill, if you make $50,000 a year annually, you're going to pay something like $5,000 more in taxes. So you're going to earn less money. And these people say they're Christians. They say that they're going to help the needy. They say that they're going to help suffering. And this whole thing is the worst impulses of the United States of America have all risen into one disgusting zit. And that zit is Donald Trump. And the scar that it's going to leave when this MFer kicks over is going to be generational to get us to the other side of this. Because you've got this woman who told him about the dogs and cats being eaten, which is a total lie. And she has his ear. She marches up to the White House, just like the MyPillow guy did, and has all this influence over Trump because he's not all there. He is a complete demented psycho.
Right. And let's not forget, when she went to the White House, his national security advisors that she recommended go actually went. So you're getting advice from somebody that has already said on this issue, send me the names of who's against Trump. It's a cult because the other cult members are ratting out other members of the cult that are talking poorly about Trump. And let's face it, Laura Loomer has been on the Trump train from jump to the point where she got, cut off social media and all that. But these are the people that he surrounds himself, the people that tell him, you're the best, you're the most athletic, you're the smartest. Therefore, he gets no realistic information. Nobody can go.
It wouldn't matter if he got realistic information. That's part of the problem. Like, he did get realistic information in Trump 1.0, but he's still bitter about it. He still is aggrieved about it. He still calls all of these generals that were far right-wingers, that were guardrails. He will get on TV and rail against them because this man is an authoritarian. I think he's mentally ill. And so you could have all of the people around him imaginable, and his default setting is still to do corrupt shit.
Right. You're right.
So it's, again, even arriving at the conversation by saying he's chosen wrong. allows him that maybe he has the wherewithal to make good decisions. There's always all of this compensating that everybody does on behalf of him. The realization that everybody has to come to with this man is he is a con artist through and through. The more corrupt you are, the better. The more morally bankrupt you are, the better. The more you traffic in conspiracy theorists, the better. And most importantly, the more willing you are to break the law, perfect. Because that was his frustration with Trump 1.0, that Esper, his Secretary of Defense, wouldn't let him shoot protesters in front of the White House. He asked him, can I shoot these protesters in the leg? And he said, no, you can't do that. Trump's bitter about that. And so he has, like a smartphone, he has intuitively gotten more corrupt to the other end. He's gotten dumber, worse, more dangerous, more corrupt. And in all of this, I believe, and as hopeless and helpless as all of this sounds, I believe that MAGA support is greatly exaggerated online. If we post something MAGA on one of our socials, for example, you can tell it gets hit by a troll farm, by a bot farm, and they just start rolling out, and it gets a disproportionate MAGA explosion to it. And then you go and look at these accounts, and you can completely tell they're bots. And so you have Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and others who are completely exaggerating the support of this MAGA movement. But within that, I have to tell you, we live in a red state. This cancer, this moral duplicity, it exists. If you feel like a lot of white Americans are racist, here, boots on the ground, I can tell you 100% they are. If you feel like a lot of white Americans don't like immigrants, I can tell you 100% they don't. The only thing they want out of them is to exploit their labor while they're off at church. And so everything you're seeing, I can tell you it's true, but I don't think it's the majority of us. I think the majority of Americans are horrified and mortified at what they're seeing with their own eyes, at these egregious human rights violations, seeing people with their faces covered, not in uniforms, taking people from Home Depot like that's a place where felons hang out. That's a place where workers hang out to go get supplies for the rich white people that want to exploit their labor. But the middle class has been lied to by this administration and told the reason that you cannot have nice things is because of these immigrants. And this is what authoritarians do. This is what Hitler did with the Jews. The reason you can't have nice things is because of the Jews. And when you see the images of what's going on in El Salvador at that concentration camp, and you can sit down and still support Trump, you are an evil motherfucker, period. There is zero daylight between a Nazi in Nazi Germany and an American that has seen those images. Zero daylight. Do not give them the deference. Do not placate them and say, oh no, you're still a good person, because this is how evil shit that we're seeing now snowballs into horrifically damaging evil shit. And this is something that everybody asks us, what can we do? What can we do? Start holding the people in your personal lives accountable. This is evil. This is diabolical, and they're all doing it under the name of the United States of America, and it's where we live, and it's our fucking country. And this is a coup by the worst evil Christian nationalists imaginable. And we, on a micro level, on a personal level, can talk to people and say, I'm sorry, if you've seen the images of what's happening in El Salvador, and you know that those people have not received due process, and you're okay with that, you're no different than a Nazi in Nazi Germany. And they'll freak out and all of that. But you know what? We all should freak out when we see injustice. And what I'm seeing this administration do is injustice. And good people, sane people, when they see injustice, they stand up and fight against it. And that's what we have to do. There's another march coming up. I saw online. Have you seen this, Pumps? Yes. July 4th. Pumps and I went to the march, the first No Kings March, and it was really fabulous. And it reminded me of what it felt like to be an American again.
It gave me a lot of hope because even in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, where it's MAGA central in this state.
Oklahoma City is not, it's purple.
But in this state, it's MAGA deluxe. And people came and they were saying, this is what democracy looks like.
Yes.
Export the racists, not the immigrants. So I was very heartened by it. And the fact that Trump's parade held less than 10,000 people and there were millions and millions of people at other protests, I believe that America is starting to wake up and say, we don't want the cruelty. People that weren't engaged in politics are seeing these human rights violations and they're saying, not me.
I agree. And it just taking part in these marches, it really reminded you that there is goodness in this country and it's something that we have to fight for. And we are not going to be the people that live in this country that let it fall to Donald Trump. That piece of shit is who we're going to let American democracy fall for that guy? Like, seriously. So every single day, there are little things you can do. Follow our show. Make sure you subscribe here and all of the other platforms, but not just us. There are a lot of other independent newsmakers on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on other places. Follow them, support them. It is incredibly important that we build a media ecosystem that traffics in truth and social justice for everybody. And it's important that we form a community for social justice. So don't just follow us, follow others, the Midas Touch, Brian Tyler Cohen, Don Lemon, Joy Reid, on and on and on again. And make sure on a personal level, on a personal person-to-person basis, if somebody is endorsing injustice, call them out. Have uncomfortable conversations. Our country is hanging in the balance. This is not a time to just say, we just disagree politically. Any other group of people that supported such inhumane acts against their fellow citizens would be held accountable. But in the United States of America, white Christians always get off the hook. Donald Trump gets off the hook. Don't let them off the hook. We are in the battle for the soul of this country, and it is so important that everybody, every single day, try to do a little something that you can, even if it's just liking a post. Please help. We have to fight. Show up on July 4th. Drive as far as you can to march with your fellow Americans, and we can prevail. The people can prevail because this is our fucking country. It's not Donald Trump's. All right, that's all we have for this weekend. I'm off to play tennis. Pumps is off to exercise, and we'll see you all later.